a real story, and it's a very current story. This didn't happen that long ago. These events took place in this very current. It's so relevant right now, and there are a lot of references in the film to key figures, political figures. Famously, President Trump, at the time of his first presidency, was the one who gave this team their American visas to be able to participate in their first American competition. So it's very current, and like you said, it's just this, I think, very exciting, very poignant, but also entertaining. I can't believe that this actually happened type of story based on true events about an extraordinary woman, Roya, who really changed the needle, pushed the needle, and changed the lives of many, many people after her. And this took place at a time after the Americans had been in Afghanistan. And there was like a little more leniency and a little more push towards education, freedom for girls. Um, and obviously, we've seen that change since then. I don't know how many of your listeners are aware, but this, for example, this team, the robotics team, is still happening today, but it's happening outside of Afghanistan. The girls, most of them are living outside of Afghanistan under refugee status. But yeah, I hope I answered your question.
And Nikohl, in terms of being true to the nature of the circumstances, being true to the nature of the region, doing your research in terms of the movie, based it as a real life sort of story, how much was every little detail, every little aspect to reflect the religions, to reflect the society, to reflect the role of women in terms of girls and education, in terms of that, to make it realistic and really true to its origin. How important was that for the producers, directors, and everybody involved in terms of the cast as well?
Think very important. I mean, we have an incredible director, Bill Gutentag, who's has a history, Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker, and he worked with Roya. He discovered Roya through an article about her and just became fascinated with her story. And over COVID time, where no films were being made, they started meeting together over Zoom, them, his writing partner, and her sister, Alaha, who later became a co writer on the project. And Roya herself became an executive producer. So they were super, super involved from small to big. How long would their sleeves be? Really going through their experiences in their life and the school, the religion, the robotics. I think even that's we have two cultures that we're meeting in this film. Of course, Afghanistan, and then we also have the robotics culture. Which that was incredibly important to them too. I know that all the code that's in the film is real, was done by students and checked and double checked. Our robots that we use in the final competitions are real robots. We had real robotics students come to set and work with the robots, teach us what we could do ourselves. A lot of the footage itself was actually shot at robotics competitions around the world. A lot of our B-rolls. So yes, authenticity was very, very important to, I think, everyone.
Yeah. And Nikohl, you mentioned Roya being having a direct link to this movie. Did you get to speak to her maybe not maybe at first, maybe through Zoom? Did you get an opportunity to speak to her in person in terms of doing your research to get a sense of her and her essence and her character?
I did. I got to speak with both Roya and her sister, and they were very generous with their time, and I had a direct link to them. We had a lot of things in common, a lot of experiences we'd had. They'd actually been raised as part of their life in Iran, which is where my family is from. And there's a lot of crossover culturally between those two countries, obviously being so close together and, borders being moved around here and there through history. And then, a fun little tidbit, I got to get Roya's birth time, for example. This was post-COVID, or even actually in the middle of COVID. So I had taken an astrology class to keep busy. So, an interest that I had had, and I was able to work with her, her birth chart even. There were a lot of different ways that I got to approach her as a character, but I was not trying to do an impersonation. I hope that I was able to catch her spirit.
Yeah, and Nicole, I do believe you shot in Morocco and Hungary, two unique sort of destinations as well. And I imagine you got to shot in both, if I am correct. And tell me, what was that sort of like as a cast going from two countries that maybe are a bit apart? I know probably what maybe 3 hours 3 hours flight would get you from Hungary to Morocco, but there's still a good lot of moving about to do with a cast and sort of production team as well. What was that like in terms of shooting in two different locations?
Actually, I think that was the first time that I had done that. I've shot on location in the Middle East before, which is always such an experience, and especially when you do that as a whole cast, it's really a bonding experience. It, especially because these girls, a lot of them, it was their first films, so it's a lot like summer camp, and you're going through this experience together, and life is imitating art and art is imitating life, and the lines get a little bit blurred and confusing, and magical. But yeah, the two countries were extremely different. When we were in Morocco, in Marrakesh, it was super hot and warm, and the people are so warm, and it's loud, and so many colors, and you have that experience, and the hospitality. And then going to Budapest, this beautiful historic city, very different energy, very different crews, but we were just so lucky in both locations, I think, and incredibly beautiful locations both, and so different. And I think it actually lent itself to the film because they are also traveling, and kind of fish out of water in some circumstances, and some of the scenes, parts of the film, parts of their story. So I think the traveling together, all of it kind of plays a part in what you end up seeing on screen.
Yeah, and we have to we can't forget as well that there is a good lot of action and a good lot of stunts in this movie as well, and some edge of your seat sort of moments as well. And you mentioned having a young cast as well working alongside you, some of them. How exciting and exhilarating was for them? Obviously, you've seen it before in terms of the stunts effects, in terms of the gunfire scenes and stuff like that. What was and the explosions? What was that like? In terms of filming and sets for them and for yourself working with a young cast in terms of the whole action sequences?
It was amazing. I think it was the first time I'd worked with a young cast like that, and it reminded me a lot of the first film I had done. Was also on location in the Middle East. It was in Lebanon, and I was the young cast, and I was so lucky to have incredible actors that really softened the experience for me and guided me and made the experience so memorable. And I got to watch them kind of bond together and do the same for one another. And I hope I was able to make that experience a little smoother for them, because it's a lot, being on a film set for the first time, being out of the country like that. But they just did such a beautiful job, and I think that they bonded so beautifully that their relationships really shine on screen, and their individuality as well. And I think that the story is so close to everyone's heart. We really were um, very committed to telling this story as truthfully as we could, and felt that it was an important story to tell. And so the stakes felt quite high. And so, yeah, of course, those scenes when the heavier days uh, play, they feel heavy, and the cast is there to support one another, and the crew is there to support us. And like I said, the team is just so incredible. This is a interesting fact. I Noreen and I did the shooting scene on the first day of shooting of the film. That was our entrance into the film, and it was out in the desert, and it was so hot, and it was a really intense 2 days of shooting. Something that in the end, makes is just maybe less than a minute of the film.